All right, here we are. I can't believe it's week 7 already. It's absolute insanity. I saw that a few days ago, and I'm telling you, I almost yacked. It's disgusting. Like we're already more than halfway through the regular season. Makes me sick.
Well, I mean, it's crazy because I'm wearing the Celtics hoodie tonight. I've got my Bruins on right now, and we're getting to that point of the season where when the NBA and the NHL starts, and your NFL team's already 1-4, and you're not doing very well in any other sport, that you're like, all right, well, I need about 10 more weeks of college football now. Um, Good thing is that we get 3 weeks or 4 weeks of the playoffs now, so it's expanded a little bit more. But it's crazy. Time's flying by. But with this time that's flying by, we now have a pretty good representation of what every team kind of is and who they are and their identity, and so we're kind of starting to figure out this puzzle in a way.
The profiles are developing. It's starting to take shape. I mean, think about it. Just 2 weeks ago, we were on here, and we had no idea who Penn State was
No,
because there was no proof of performance. I don't consider Villanova to be proof of performance.
maybe in
And
basketball.
yes, maybe basketball in the Jay Wright era, but not certainly not football. Didn't know they had a team. Now we have a pretty understanding of the Penn State situation, and it's alarming to say the least. And you look at other teams in a more positive light, and Tennessee is one
Yeah,
that we're looking at, and we're like, wow, this team's impressive. Texas A&M is another one we're looking at, and we're like, wow, this team is really like this. This could actually be the year that they start to exceed expectations.
yeah,
And one that we're going to talk about tonight is in South Florida. One of Luke's favorite teams, the Miami Hurricanes, and this is one where we always they've been kind of like I mean, I don't want to say quite like a Nebraska
yeah,
because Nebraska had that, or because Miami had that year in 2017 with I think it was like Malik Rozier or something. They went 11-0, lost.
yeah.
So like they had something there. Um, but Nebraska hasn't done shit, and now we're looking at Miami this year, and saw that overlay up on here. We're looking at Miami right now, and this is the most complete top to bottom that I've seen this team since I've been conscious enough to watch college football.
Yeah, I mean, this team, you could make a real argument, and I think they should. Now, I am somebody that says that the national champion before the previous year should be number one until they get dethroned. Um, but Miami's made a great case to be number one. They have three top ten wins, I believe. And their strength of schedule is top 25 in the country. Carson Beck, we kind of talked about him this summer. I mean, we've talked about Miami a few times. I know both of us had Florida State last week, kind of continuing to disrespect Miami a little bit, but they went out on the road and they tried to crush the ball a little bit late. They kind of let Florida State back in the game, but I mean, by the time Florida State really figured out how to get through that defense with Ruben Bain up there and all the great secondary of Miami and did the intense pressure on their offensive line, it was too late. It was just far too late in the game. And Florida State put a little something together in the fourth quarter, but Miami was never scared. Their fans never really were challenged in a way of watching the game. It was kind of a beatdown in a night game in Tallahassee, which I think is arguably one of the more impressive wins of the season, especially with Florida State coming off that loss to Virginia. So yeah, when you look at Tony Jr., Little Tony, as I like to call him, he made one play against Florida State where he caught like a little, I think it was an 8-yard slant route and just outran the whole defense. And it looked effortless too. So he's just one of those impact players. True freshman, by the way. He's gonna be making some big bucks next year.
They have, so that's one thing about Miami, and Malachi Tony's one of them. Ruben Bain is another one. Mark Fletcher is another one.
Great.
Like they just have some unicorn, just alien athletes on this team, and some of these guys almost like they're created in a lab or something. Like it's the talent composite for this team is different, and I think that Miami is making their arrival right now. Not only in terms of their team this year, but in terms of the landscape of college football, because I look at this and it goes beyond just this season for me, because I'm seeing how they're performing when it comes to recruiting, retention, and NIL. Like they're starting to distinguish themselves absolutely from the ACC.
Absolutely.
Like as far as their profile, as I've used these teams as a business.
Yeah.
As far as their profile as an organization goes, at this point, they have elevated so far above Clemson. And Clemson was the gold standard in this conference for the past 10 years. They have elevated them at recruiting, NIL, player development, preparedness, coaching, staff, everything. They're superior to every other team in the ACC. They're almost like an SEC team in the ACC right now. And as far as like depth goes, they're getting on to the level of like your Ohio States, your Alabamas, your Texases, your Oregons. Like they're getting there to where like they're 3 deep everywhere, and it's hard to come by in this age of college football.
Yeah, and I really kind of undersold them. I feel like at the beginning of the year, I thought they were going to be good. I thought that they were going to compete potentially for an ACC title, but I think in the video we did over the summer of like their preview, even I kind of said that there was a couple ACC teams that I felt were cream of the crop. I think we said it was Clemson, and then that they were in that mid-level ACC tier, and maybe at the top of it, but we felt that there was a distinguished gap between them and Clemson, and we had that backwards. There is a distinguished gap between Miami and every other ACC team in that conference, and I think that one of the more impressive things that I've seen from Miami in terms of how you were kind of mentioning their program building is that it's kind of been it's been like a roller coaster where you're starting to go up and up and up, and I thought maybe after last year, they take a little dip down before they get up to the real peak, but it seems like Miami's just on a steady incline in terms of talent, player development, coaching staff, all that. I mean, even optics. You've got Michael Irvin on the sideline doing whatever that little cannon is, winding up the cannon. I mean, they really just have everything going for them, and if it's a good time to be a Hurricane fan. That's all I got to say.
No, it's a team. It's an organization that absolutely has a positive trajectory, and And again, I know it's week 7, so you can't overreact too much. But they've already got the good bulk of their schedule, so like this is going to be a playoff team because a lot of their hardest games in the rearview mirror now.
Yeah,
and so we can pretty much, unless anything drastic happens, which we have seen in these past couple of years, I don't think it's happened to this team just because of how it's built. So I think it's time for me to issue a formal apology because undersold is the perfect adjective. It's the perfect word for this. I undersold Miami. I said between 8 and 9 wins this year, and they are way, 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 way better than that. I mean, they're the way that this team is gelling right now. How cohesive this team is right now. They are going to go way beyond that. And so, first and foremost, I issue a sincere apology, but when I look at where this team can go, no, it's limitless right now. I mean, their trajectory is incredible, and I'm really excited to see it. Now, I look at what they do well, and they have a lot of traits of great teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
And number one, they take away your strengths and they amplify your weaknesses. That's what you saw Ohio State be so masterful at in the playoffs last year. That's what you saw them Alabama teams with Saban be so great at, is taking away teams' core strengths and then doubling down on your own, exposing weaknesses, doubling down on your own strengths. And Florida State was a perfect example of that. Final
Absolutely.
score 28-22 doesn't mean shit. It was a lot at that garbage time points. That game was not Miami dominated. It wasn't even close. That Tommy Castellanos, you saw with Alabama, he ran the ball at will. Virginia, he carved that secondary up. This past weekend, he ran the ball 16 times for 57 yards. And Florida State made him throw the ball 45 times. He completed 25 of them. So they're going with a lot of volume, not a lot of efficiency, which is something that I hadn't really seen out of them this year. But that is what Miami baited them into doing. That's what great teams do. And number two, they wear you down, just physically.
Yeah.
They wear you down. I can see it on these teams. There's a cracking point. Notre Dame, a team whose Marcus Freeman is forged in physicality and toughness and being able to sustain intensity for 4 quarters. You could see at a certain point in the third and fourth quarter, they didn't know what they were walking into.
No.
They were like, what the fuck is this? Like, it would be a battle, but you were just in the national championship. You'd start to get your grip on it in the fourth quarter. Like, no, this team is a lot better than we expected. So it's the toughness. It's baiting teams into making mistakes, and they don't make many of their own. They did have 13 penalties against Florida State. I will say that. So that's something that can be cleaned up. But when you've got a couple stars on your team the way they do, I mean, Carson Beck is in the best position I've ever seen him in. He looks more comfortable and dialed in than he's ever been. You've got a 2-head monster at running back. You've got Malachi Tony. You got C.J. Daniels. You've got Ruben Bain. Like this team is scary.
Well, and I think that's the main thing with them is that it's just the balance on both the defensive and offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
There's really not one thing that you can go into a game and say, hey, if we do this, we're going to beat this team. You kind of have to just play all facets of the game as well as possible and hope that they kind of beat themselves, which, they're not immune to doing, as you mentioned, 13 penalties. They are a somewhat heavily penalized team. As they have been under Mario Cristobal for a couple of years now. That's kind of been a common thing with his teams. But they immediately get back at you, and if they get a 15-yard pass interference on the defense, they might get a 10-yard sack the next play. So, it's even though they're trying to beat themselves, they haven't this year. And, they play in the ACC. I never want to pencil anything in college football. I think it's a safe bet to pencil Miami in as a college football playoff team. I think realistically there would be a case for them with 3 losses, depending on how it goes and depending on who those losses are. I don't want to say like they'd 100% be in, but their strength of record is incredible right now, and it's the eye test. That's what it comes down to, is the eye test.
Well, like I said earlier, they already had the bulk of their schedule. Like they already have the bulk of their challenges.
And they're not going to lose 3 games.
No, that's not going to happen. And like I look at some teams like Alabama, for example. I love the start that Alabama's having right now. Like I, as an Alabama fan, I feel very good about what I've seen so far.
Absolutely.
But you still have Missouri. We're going to talk about that, who I think is the biggest trap game of the year. I've been having dreams about this game since the summertime. Like that's how you know. You still got LSU, you still got Tennessee, you still got Auburn going to the Plains. You still have Oklahoma at home. You still have to go to Williams-Brice.
Yeah.
And so, Ohio State still has to play Illinois. They still have to play Penn State. They still have to play Michigan. And so you look at them too. And whereas, again, I feel very good about them, just like I do Alabama, they still have that ahead of them.
Yeah.
Miami has already done most of the heavy lifting already. And,
absolutely.
And there's it only gets easier from here. And one last thing before we start to transition into the predictions here about Miami that I want to say is that I love the setup. And let me unpack this here. I love their setup. It reminds me of like a 2022 Georgia, to where their talent composite is just so much higher than most of the teams that they're playing. Because you remember, Georgia's schedule was cake.
Yeah.
And in 2022 compared to a lot of other teams in the SEC.
Yeah.
Compared to the Big 12, it's another story. But compared to Big 12 team or compared to SEC teams, Georgia's schedule was cake.
Yeah.
They get to the playoff, and whereas there may have been teams that in theory could be better, Georgia was so well rested by that point.
Yeah.
In such like physically good shape, because they hadn't been beat up like these other teams.
Yeah.
That they got to the playoffs, and I was like, all right, we haven't even hit our ceiling yet. Now let's hit the ceiling. I feel like that could be Miami this year. And, I've got their schedule pulled up now, and you can say Notre Dame's in the rearview mirror, USF, Florida State, all in the rearview mirror. They have a bye this weekend. And then you got Louisville, who, I know you like a lot, but
Well, I like them a little bit less after last week, but
yeah, they're fickle. They'll be in the Music City Bowl like that. I think that's the game for them. They feel very Music City Bowl-ish to me.
They're very hit or miss.
Yeah, no, like you never know what you're going to get with Jeff Brom's Cardinals this year. And then you got the Cardinal Stanford, which that's going to be a freaking bloodbath.
Hey, they got a $50 million NIL donation today, though.
Hopefully that does something. I miss Stanford being good, so hopefully that does something.
I do too.
And then at SMU, who I'm sorry, I don't think is that intimidating, especially for Miami.
No, absolutely not.
I think they go not here, but over what is it? Over there to Dallas. And I think they walk into their trap and take over their trap with ease.
Yeah, they're more physically dominating than SMU. They won't be able to compete with the athletes on the field.
No, and once again, they'll make Kevin Jennings one-dimensional. And that will be their key. Syracuse at home may be their toughest test remaining, because then they got Virginia Tech on the road. Pitt on the that is the one back in 2017. And I loved that Miami team back in 2017. I was full on the bandwagon. I'm like, the seventh floor crew is back. I'm like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. And then they go on the road to Pitt and get upset on Thanksgiving Friday. And luckily this one's on Saturday, so maybe Miami will be able to pull this off. Luckily it's on Syracuse this year.
Well, and that's the thing about the Syracuse game. It's a revenge game, and they've got a lot to play for. So I'm not too worried about that game for them. I'm currently looking at, according to playoffstatus.com, Miami has a 63% chance to make the playoffs right now, which is saying a lot. Ohio State has the highest odds at 65. If you want a comparison, let's see, Georgia Tech has a 39% chance to make the playoffs according to this website. So that's the next closest ACC team.
Yeah, that shows you the gap.
Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of where we stand right now with Miami. And I think Georgia Tech's a good team, but Miami won't have to play them until Charlotte. So,
and I think that, Georgia Tech didn't almost lose to Wake Forest. So take
who knows? Who knows? The ACC is just it's a mess. It's just a mess of a conference right now.
It's bad because Georgia Tech selfishly is the team that I want to see. Go to Charlotte because I have them in my playoff, and it's looking good right now. There's been a few real freaking nail biters, including
Wake Forest
against Wake Forest, but hopefully they just continue to find ways to win. But you go beyond that. If you go outside of Georgia Tech, like I don't really know who else is going to go. Like, is it going to be Pitt? Is it going to be
the next highest after Georgia Tech is Virginia, and they sit at 27%.
Yeah, Virginia. Which look, I love the whole Who stories. I think it's
Virginia and Florida State are the two are the next two.
Florida State. Okay, well, I don't know why my mind forgot Florida State for a second. It shouldn't. But
And
they're
then you go down, and then you're entering a whole new realm of no shot, no shot.
wow. There's. I try to watch everybody as much as I can, but I will be real. There are some teams in the ACC that I have not watched a game of, and I don't
Yeah.
plan on this year either because I just know what it is.
Yeah, yeah. I don't need to be watching. I'm sorry, I'm not watching a Duke game at 11 a.m.
No, or I saw this one advertised to me at 11 p.m. last weekend. That's even out here. It was like 10:30 our time.
California. Was it the Cal game?
Yeah, it was Cal, and who's their opponent?
I think it was Duke, maybe.
Yeah, it was Cal and Duke. I was like,
I watched it at the bar, but I watched about half of it. Me and Cobb did, and then we decided that it wasn't really worth the watch and went home.
yeah, that would make me want to start drinking Rumple if I was watching that thing. I'd be like, here, give me a shot of JMO. Let's
Well, there was some of that involved.
some JMO.
There was some of that involved.
Oh hell yeah! That's how you know it was a hell of a night. Well, you're going to be seeing me in Tuscaloosa. Spoiler alert here. Very soon. I'm looking to hopefully finalize next Friday. If not in Oklahoma, but I'm looking to finalize next Friday or Thursday night to come down.
Let's do it.
And speaking of Alabama, that's our first prediction. If we can get the banner up, there it is. Oh, boom! There we go. I had to put the yellow backdrop on Missouri. I just think it looks better than the black.
Absolutely, yeah, hell yeah. That's classic Missouri right there.
That's and I know I roll with the Tide, but I've always liked Mizzou. I don't know what it is. Like I think Como's a solid college town. Like it's a you kind of forget about Missouri sometimes, but I don't. I have a Missouri shirt, believe it or not. I won't be wearing it at all this week, but I do have one because I like to represent. It's like they've had some fine players go throughout there. I loved Shane Ray there back in the day. That was
yeah.
That guy was a dog. Matty Mock back in the day.
Matty Mock, yeah, absolutely.
Jeremy Macklin. There are some dogs, but I look at this game here, and this, like I said, this is the Alabama trap game, and
you've got this one circled.
I do. I and there is one game every year where I get very nervous about, and then all of a sudden it just turns out being fine. Like weirdly enough, last year that game was Wisconsin for me last year, and then everything.
I remember that.
This one, now this is very different than Wisconsin, but that I think that Missouri honestly is every bit as good as Alabama. Especially they have the quarterback that Penn State should have right now. And
Pribula.
I think he's much better than Drew Aller. I don't think it's even close.
Really?
I was watching some film last night, getting ready for this of Mizzou and South Carolina a few weeks ago, and his instinct is just fantastic. He made some passes that if they were just a little bit off, they would have been picked. Like he's no check down Charlie. Like this guy can put the ball where he wants to at ease. And so Alabama's secondary has that to worry about. And the biggest thing that I'm concerned about with Alabama's defensive line is going up against Ahmad Hardy. Because he could very well be the best running back in college football right now. But I say that all about Missouri and their defense looks fantastic. I saw Vanderbilt's line get a push on Alabama last year. So this statistically is a top 10 defensive line right now. Their edge rush is great. They're great at generating pressure. And so there's every reason to be concerned if you're Alabama with this offensive line. But that's all of Missouri's check marks. Let me talk about Alabama's here. Alabama has always been one of those teams. I think Josh Pate said a couple of years ago, his analogy is like chopping the head off a snake. If you don't chop the head off the snake early in the season, keep slithering, and it's going to keep getting nutrients, and it's going to keep getting better, and it's going to survive. Alabama has always been that team when they get to a certain point, and they just keep winning and keep winning. the confidence grows, and the talent composite is always there. And so if that growth, or if that growth, the improvement, the synergy just keeps on going up every week, guys keep getting closer together. There's more confidence. Alabama's talent composite is so high to where if you're seeing this team in November and they're 9-1, look the fuck out, because like that's what you saw in 2023. Like the team was very shaky to start the year. I mean, there was the Texas loss, there's the USF game, Ole Miss. They're down like 7-6 at halftime when they came to town in 23. Tennessee, we were down 20-17 at halftime.
Yeah,
that game in October, and that was the game where the switch flipped, and then after that, you didn't want to take the field with Alabama, and maybe that was that. Maybe Vanderbilt was that game for Alabama this year. All I know is I'm going to say it's the same thing every week. If you can give Ty Simpson a clean pocket, I don't care who the DBs are. I think that he's skilled enough at that position. He can put the ball where he wants to. When he has a clean pocket, he is razor sharp. And so to where you can't overlook this Missouri team, I reflect confidence in the Tide. They're favored by 3 as of right now, and I'm taking Alabama in a close game that will never not be close, 27-21 in Como.
You mentioned briefly the Missouri defensive line. They are currently first in team defense against the run, giving up about 62 yards a game.
Yeah.
Averaging just over 2.6 yards per carry. And I think that's going to be crucial for Alabama to be able to establish the run early. Now, I will say, I don't think Missouri's gone up against a team that has nearly the talent up front that Alabama does. In terms of, they went up against Kansas and South Carolina. Those teams are good teams overall. I think that Kansas is bordering on decent to good. South Carolina, they've just got a brutal schedule coming up. Honestly, like they're just in hell right now. But Ahmad Hardy, you could argue he's the best back in the country. There's that stat that was like, every time that the years ended in 5, running back has won the Heisman, and we were kind of thinking, we were like, who is the best running back in the country? Who could be in that conversation? Ahmad Hardy definitely could be up there, just statistically wise. I like this Missouri team. I'm not sold on Bo Pribula. Quite honestly, I'm not sold 1,000% on him. But the one thing that I really like about Alabama here is, I don't know if you saw, but Ty Simpson mentioned that Missouri runs a very similar defensive scheme to Alabama. So he's kind of been going up against that scheme all season. And like you mentioned, if you keep him composed and keep him out of the pocket, I don't think that this is going to be something like Florida State or even as worried as I was for Georgia, because Alabama's played in 2 of the most hostile environments in college football already. So I don't think that's going to affect them as much as being able to run the ball and establish their identity early, because against Vanderbilt, I believe it was the second to last drive of the game. Alabama had a 13-play, like 8-minute drive to really salt the game away. They got a field goal out of it, but it was 12 rushes, just bully ball against that Vandy defense. And I'm not so sure you're going to be able to do that against Missouri. But if you are, it'd be a big statement. I like Alabama actually with a little bit wider margin. I saw a stat that Alabama and Missouri have never played a game within 19 points of each other. I like Missouri to cover 19. Let's get that straight. But I do like Alabama by 2 scores. I'm going to go with 30-21.
Let me think. You go back. Last year was a blowout, but Brady Cook was hurt. Like that's just the timing was weird for the match. It was a homecoming game too.
I want to say the 19 points. Maybe it's recently, but I want to say the 19 points was during the COVID season when Alabama opened up at Missouri, and it was just kind of a weird situation. But I think that's the closest they've played, at least within the last 40 years. I'm not sure going back how many meetings Alabama and Missouri have had before 1990.
Now, look, I know that you're a Bama nerd like me, and so do you remember what the game was like the first time these two played in the SEC?
Was it the SEC championship?
No, they played in 2012 in Como.
Oh yeah, that's the Eddie Lacy when who
Yes,
was it? Was it Rashawn Evans suplexed the dude and got
yes,
thrown out of the game? He picked him up and threw him over his shoulder.
yes.
Yeah, I think that was around this time too. I remember watching it out on my back porch. It was a little bit chilly outside. You know, it felt like football weather. I was like, who the hell? I was like, I believe I was 9 years old, and I was like, who on earth? Like, we're playing at Missouri. What has the SEC turned into?
Yeah, it was that year was so weird, man. I mean, I remember seeing all the. I mean, unfortunately, we hosted A&M that year. Like
Yeah,
that went the way it did. We got revenge the year after, but welcoming those two to the SEC, it was just
yeah,
it was a point in time. But I think that they both kind of found their home in the SEC. Like
I agree.
they both feel like they belong. The other two, I'm still kind of warming up to. I'm still not big
Yeah,
on
I'm
Texas just yet, but
I'm not big on them either.
they still feel very Big 12y to me. But maybe just give it time because I felt that way about Missouri and A&M for a while too because they weren't in the deep South. So I was like I wasn't really embracing it at first. Maybe it'll get to that point, but it feels weird. Like it's at least it's not Rutgers in the Big Ten or some
That's
bullshit
right.
Cal in the
That's
ACC or some bullshit like that.
Yeah, no, we know we've gone a little off the wire a little bit, but it's somewhat regional compared to what college football is today.
Yeah, it's I can take it. Like they at least they border other teams in the conference. That's the way I view it. Like the Missouri borders Arkansas. Or, Texas borders Louisiana. Like it's I can take that. That Washington State does not border Iowa.
No,
Or Wisconsin or Minnesota, Ohio. It doesn't. Like look at it that way. It doesn't make any sense.
no, not at all.
Now, speaking of the Big Ten, um, we've got this little matchup here. I don't even know what that's for. Ohio State and Illinois. Um, this one, I'll be honest, is one that I didn't think a lot. I did not spend a lot of time preparing for this one or really like reflecting deeply on this one because I do feel very strongly one way. The way this is going to go.
I
I
know
think
where you
Ohio
feel. I
State.
know where you feel strongly.
Oh, Ohio State.
Yeah,
I mean, they just have more playmakers. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Caleb Downs. You look at this team, like it's a fucking nightmare. There's no other way that I can put it. And Julian saying, I'm starting to warm up a little bit more to him. Like I thought his start was a little bit slow. Like I didn't. He looked like a sophomore quarterback starting
yeah,
for a high caliber team. Who wasn't named Bryce Young or Trevor Lawrence, like an absolute alien. Like he looked like a normal sophomore quarterback going out there the first couple of weeks, and he's been doing all right. He looks like he gets more and more comfortable every week,
I agree.
and so I think there will be a point, and maybe this is the game where you look at Julian saying like, wow, he's turning the corner. I mean, Minnesota looked pretty good last weekend, but
Yeah,
we've got to have that game of like, oh, Julian saying has arrived, and so maybe this could be that game. I'm going to say it's about Illinois. I think a lot of us have the perception of Illinois in our heads about it's that Indiana game was such a travesty. Like it leaves a taste in your mouth. Like
yeah,
like even though they've won games since, you still just have that 63-10 etched in your head. Like wow, like that actually happened. You're in the top 10 and you got shellacked that badly by somebody. That game I think we're going to look back at that one this year, and it's just going to feel like a weird anomaly. Like, because I don't think Indiana's as good as they were in that game, and I don't think Illinois is as bad as they were in that game. Like, I think that it was just the fluky way that game was. But there was one thing that game showed me, and it's that if you have the defensive scheme and the playmakers too, you can rattle Luke Altmaier. And you can fuck his body clock up. And I think Ohio State has the beef on the defensive line to be able to do that and generate that kind of pressure, get in his head, speed him up. And that's where I think Ohio State's going to tip the scale here. They're favored by 14.5. I like Ohio State to cover 37-20.
Well, I might go a little bit off the rails here. Um, so you know what happens when Ohio State plays these random Big Ten schools on the road, right?
Well, there was that Iowa game back in 17 and Purdue and
That's
8.
true. That's true. But you know, I- everybody was so quick to jump on the Washington train when Ohio State went on the road and played them. I don't see as many people quick to jump on the Illinois train, who is a lot better team than Washington, in my opinion. Now, Washington had that comeback win against Maryland, but I, like I said, I don't trust Brett Bielema as far as I can throw him, and I can't throw him very far. But I think that Indiana game showed more about Illinois than it did Indiana in a way. You get beat 63-10 again in a top 15 matchup, and you come out next week and bounce back and you beat USC and you kind of get your act together a little bit. This is going to be a hostile environment. I don't think the Illinois fan base gets enough credit for how really like decent they are. Like I won't call them like one of the better fan bases in college football, but when they're good, they show out and they're loud. And I think that Illinois has a chance to kind of come out and jump on Ohio State early. Um, Gosh, I really want. I'm gonna take Illinois to win this game. I haven't
Oh,
seen enough. I haven't seen enough from Ohio State offensively yet. Now I know they got Sayin. I know they got Jeremiah Smith. They got the best player on the field. But I'm gonna take Illinois to win this thing in a little bit lower scoring of a game. I think they win this game 24-20. I think they come out on. I think they jump on Ohio State early. I think that they go up something like 17-7, 17-3, something like that at the half, and they just hold on for the rest of the game. And I think they make plays. I mean, I think they make enough plays to win the game. And I, I'm trusting Luke Altmaier here. I think he's the better quarterback than Julian Sayin, quite frankly. Now that Ohio State defense is very, very daunting. I mean, that's like staring down the barrel. But I mean, what can I say? I think something weird has to happen.
then that's what tips the scale for me is Ohio State, who I think is the best secondary in the country,
Yeah,
and then pair with their defensive push. I just think it's going to be a hell game for Luke Altmaier when I look at it. That's why I'm so tilted one way.
and I will say this: Illinois is going to have to control the turnovers. Fumbled the ball 3 times against USC. Nearly lost that game simply on turning the ball over at the goal line. I think 2 of them were at the goal line, on the goal line. But I do love Caden Fagan. I think he's a very talented runner. And I think that Illinois is able to somewhat get this done. Shout out Zeke.
Oh man, this I'm gonna have to show him this if he's I don't know if he's watching right now or not, but I'm gonna have to tell him that you picked Ohio State because he will have a word or two for you.
I think if Ohio State loses to Illinois with the state of the Miami Dolphins, Zeke might quit football.
I'm gonna send you his number. You gotta blow him up.
Oh, if this happens, bro, I'm going to be posting this everywhere.
No, you should. I mean, because this is a crazy upset to call on. Like even though it's ranked unranked, like
It's something in my gut, man. It's just telling me, and I've gone against my gut a few times, and it hasn't been working for me. So I'm sticking with my gut this week, and I'm going with Illinois.
I gotta respect that. Hey, when you get a hunch, you got to go with it. Like I said, I picked West Virginia. Well, no, a better example is this year, the game I didn't actually publicly pick that I should have, and I'm pissing myself for not doing so. But if I did it, it probably wouldn't have happened. Virginia over Florida State. I had like all day Thursday and all day Friday. I'm thinking about that game, and I'm like, man, Virginia. I think Virginia can pull off the unthinkable tonight.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it happens. And the magic, like, felt the magic in the air at the end of the first quarter, like that. You can always feel it with these games. If you're watching it, it comes through the screen. So if you're watching, you can just feel the upset and magic coming through the screen in the first quarter. You know there's gonna be a damn field storm at the end of this game.
I'm just hoping that that Illinois plays a little bit better than Minnesota did.
Yeah. I mean that.
I think I do. Look, I think they jump on them early. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. I'm leaving it at that.
you've got to. I mean, you've got to be like full blitzkrieg. You got to jump on their back and take them down while you can. You can't let them get to their feet, or else it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, if Ohio State scores first, I'll call game.
That's a quit. So like fuck this ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, I'll be like, all right, I'm wrong. Y'all come after me.
Like I tried. All right, back to Alabama.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of back to Alabama, that's where we're going for this prediction.
Down to the barn.
We're going down to the barn, out to the plains, out to right near the Georgia border, Iowa for I-85, Auburn and Georgia. We know the profile of Auburn. I mean, they can be 6-6 and 7-5 all they want. When they see the two red teams at Jordan Hare, and they've got it right now to where they get that in the same year, and it's in odd years right now. Weird shit happens. They play out of their minds. I mean, you saw it in 2023. Auburn's two best games were against Georgia and Alabama, the two teams that were in the SEC championship at the end of the year. They just have a special place in their heart for these two teams when they play them.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, they have their number as far as it goes to flustering them and making their lives hell when they come to Jordan Hare. They always just play like a very sloppy, disruptive game of football, and they get these teams frazzled, and they don't play the same brand of football that they would against Kentucky, or they would against Missouri, or they would against Vanderbilt. It's different. Georgia kind of looked like they rounded into shape when they played Kentucky this past weekend, as I would expect. I mean, Zach Calzada's down, so they've got a backup in now, and Georgia kind of showed up and showed out in Sanford as expected.
Not as much as I thought they would, though.
Not as much as I thought they would, but it looked like after the Alabama game, it was kind of like you could accept it as a get-right game.
Yeah.
And Auburn is a team I feel like we have a good profile on, playing A&M, playing Oklahoma. Good defensively. I mean, but they held A&M to 16. They held Oklahoma to 24. The same A&M team that hung 41 on Notre Dame. So defensively, they're good, and I think they're going to make this a low-scoring game on Georgia. I think there's going to be turnovers in this game. It's going to be an ugly one. Georgia's usually, those Kirby Smart defenses are usually good at taking strengths away, and Auburn is very reliant on the run game and very reliant on dip and doink passes, not so much going deep downfield. But nonetheless, I think they'll still find some magic a time or two when it comes to that on Saturday. So it's Georgia minus 3.5 here. Very, very. I don't feel like we would have seen this 2 years ago. I'm actually curious to see what that line was in 23.
I want to say it was like 13.5 or 14. I think it was 2 touchdown line.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was around 2 touchdowns, which is just 2 years later, and it's a field goal.
Yeah.
But there's also no Brock Bowers on this team, and no Ladd McConkey, and no Amarius Mims. There's a lot of dogs aren't there anymore. Georgia minus 3.5. I think it's very similar to the matchup in 23. I'm going with the dogs, 27-23.
Yeah, I'm with you right there. Except I would argue it might even be a little bit sloppier and lower scoring than 27-23. And I think, it took Brock Bowers. I can't remember exactly what his injury was, but I know that he was very banged up when they went in Jordan Hare last time. And it took a mammoth of a performance in the second half from him to really carry that team through. I think one thing about Auburn that you have to respect, even as an Alabama fan, is that they're pretty defensively sound. They've got a lot of playmakers on the defense side of the ball, very physical, and that just doesn't suit well for Mike Bobo and his offensive scheme, considering he just likes to run it up the middle every single play or throw a screen pass every single play. So for me, it's going to all come down to whether or not Walburn can take the top off of the Georgia defense. They've got guys that can go over the top. London Humphreys, Zachariah Branch, Coley. They've got a ton of guys that can really break this defense open, and I think that Auburn's going to start the game super aggressive, jumping routes, stacking the box, and they're going to make Gunnar Walburn beat them through the air. When it comes down to Auburn, good Lord Almighty, that offense is a pain to watch. I mean, what was it against Texas A&M? 0 for 15 on third and fourth down combined.
Oh, it's pathetic.
One total yard in the fourth quarter. I mean, that's just completely unacceptable for any football team at any level.
Pathetic.
And this Georgia defense, while it isn't the best that it's been in a long time, it's probably one of the worst defenses Kirby's had under his and during his tenure.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to make enough plays to get to Arnold, who's going to sit in the pocket for 6 seconds at a time, and really hasn't shown as much growth as you would want him to in his second year, third year. But for me, I'm going to take Georgia. I'm going to take Georgia 20-17. I think that spread's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a game I wouldn't touch, but I do think Georgia comes out of there with a win. And I do want to point this out. I have a group chat. It's me, one of my Bama friends, and 3 Auburn friends. And I forget, they were 3-0, right? Or 2-0?
3.
3-0. They were
Yeah.
3-0. And I told them, I said, guys, you realize it might be another month before you win. And then we're bordering. This is the 4th week coming up. So after this, we'll have a little 1-month anniversary in our group chat with me and my other Bama friend.
You gotta make the point known to it. If Georgia pulls this off, you've got to make the point known.
Oh, I have been. I've been keeping tracks of it. I got a little tracker on my phone.
And that's when I look at Auburn here like this, in a game like this, like there's gonna be times they're gonna let you down during the year.
Yeah.
But in a game like this, I feel like Cam Coleman gets an explosive. I feel like Jackson Arnold pops off 1 or 2 explosive runs.
Yeah.
Kind of like Peyton Thorne did a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think that Georgia finds all the reliable London Humphreys late in the game and has some heroics to pull this thing off.
And I can't see a reality where Georgia has 2 losses going into the month of November. So
with Ole Miss and Texas still on the schedule.
Yeah, I mean they know how important this one is.
Yeah, this is like when you put it in perspective like that. I even write
it
that
could
down.
It could be an elimination game.
Oh yeah, this is like backs against the wall for Hugh Freeze, backs against the wall for Georgia playoff chances here. So this is a higher pressure game than a lot of people are talking about. And
agreed.
2 teams that fucking hate each other because they're less than, what are they, an hour and a half apart from each other? So,
something like that.
Yeah, they fucking hate each other. I mean, it's not quite Alabama and Auburn, but it's up there.
Yeah.
Very underrated rivalry here.
Yeah, I think it is the oldest rivalry in the SEC, continuous rivalry in the SEC.
It is. No, you're right. Now I think about it, it is.
Yeah, so.
But before I move on to Oregon, Indiana, I wanted to point out, I looked up the point spread from 23, and you're spot on. It was 14.5.
That I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I think it's a bad thing for Georgia.
I remember. No, I'm saying for myself. I remember because I do remember taking Georgia that game, and so I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that I'm remembering betting lines from 2 years ago.
Cause that means it's etched in your head that like something fucking happened.
Yeah,
I remember watching that game at Ennis, believe it or not, and I was yelling at the TV. You would have thought that Alabama was playing. I believe we had a bye week that week too, and I was yelling at the TV like we were.
I think we did as well.
Oh no, we played Mississippi State.
Played State on the road?
Yeah, we played State in Starkville that night.
Okay, yeah, I was there then.
That's what that I was trying to remember what happened. Yeah, we played State in Starkville. So we got some. We're gonna go back to Big Ten country really quick, and then we're gonna go back to SEC country to end the show.
All right.
So it's the only top 10 matchup this weekend. Oregon, and we sound so spoiled saying something like that, but that's how good we've had it this past month. Oregon and Indiana. This is the game of the week. I think I got a good understanding for the profiles of both these teams. I think Indiana's better than last year. I don't think it's.
I agree.
I think it's an overreaction to say that at this point. I think I think Fernando Mendoza is an upgrade over Curtis Rourke, and I like Curtis Rourke a lot. But I think that he's a better passer of the football, and they've got some threats on this offense. Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper Jr. Like there's some legit dudes on this Indiana team, and so I think more of a threat this year than they were last year. I would look at this game last year and think, like Oregon's just going to mop the floor with Indiana. That was my feel last year. That this year, this is going to be a gritty fucking game. But I do think that the outlier here is, and it's funny because there was a game that took place in Eugene and Autzen Stadium this weekend last year with a Big Ten team who hadn't been there much, and I think if you're one of these teams that wasn't in the Pac-12 for the past 20 years, wasn't going to Oregon on the regular, I think you kind of underestimate what it is up there because you got 54,000 people and they reach 100 decibels, over 100 decibels.
Yeah.
It's a freak show.
Yeah.
And I don't think you get it until you're there. It's all it's like the Cameron Indoor of college football when you go there. And it's like when these teams like SEC or Big Ten teams go play at Duke for basketball, it's like, what the fuck? The student section's like right here. It's the dynamics of this place are just completely different than anywhere you play. And so, and I think that there's, we talked about Miami at the beginning of the show. Oregon's another one of these teams. Their competitive profile, their DNA is just different than 98% of college football right now. Dante Moore is catching the attention of scouts right now. That's how good he is. Like he's rising up draft boards right now. Yeah. And it's for a reason. Am I completely sold yet? No. I mean, there was the Penn State game, which I thought was really good. And I think that he's on a positive track right now, but he can run, he can pass. I think he'll be a huge difference maker in this game. DeCorian Moore has been living up to expectations too. And so Oregon's defense is really stingy. And so they're favored. I think this line's actually kind of big. I'm not going to lie, 7.5 in the favor of Oregon. I do like Oregon to cover though. I have them winning 35-24.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm not going to get too greedy in the Big Ten this week. I don't think both their top teams go down. But that would turn college football upside down. But I do think that Indiana is a lot more improved. I think it's not going to be anything like that Notre Dame game last year where they were just completely outmatched on the field and everybody knew it, or that Ohio State game last year where they were just completely outmatched on the field and everybody knew it. But I love Kirk Cinetti. I've said it before. I've said it multiple times on the show. I'm a fan of him. Saban disciple. Mendoza, obviously, Elijah Surratt. The defense is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It's not good enough or talented enough to stop Oregon's offense. No. I think this game's going to be a little bit farther apart than that. I think I'm going to go 38-21 Oregon, simply based off of the talent difference and the talent gap of these two teams. Although I do think that it might be close for a little bit. But ultimately, I think one or two really key shot plays kind of determines this. And look, I didn't know what Oregon was about when they went into Happy Valley. I didn't know what they were about. I didn't trust them. I didn't pick them. And I know exactly what they're about now. I mean, they bring business every week. So I'm trusting Dan Lanning. And I think one of the best quotes I saw was, he said, 104,000 people aren't going to stop you on that field. So like I said, they've been tested once. I think that's a big thing for me as well this year. Is just, have you been tested yet on the road in a hostile environment? Oregon fits the criteria. I'm going with Oregon.
Well, I just think differently about Oregon. Like even last year, I still had that notion of Oregon. Like I picked Ohio State to win that game last year, and that to me was more honestly one of the more shocking results. Because I really thought Ohio State was going to pull off. I just historically, from what we've seen, it just felt like an Ohio State win. And then when Oregon pulled it off, it was kind of that moment of, wow, have these dogs kind of turned a corner? It's like they're really starting to embody Dan Lanning. And then the Penn State game happens this year, and I know what's happened to Penn State since, but you still win to Happy Valley and thugged out a win. It's something that I wouldn't have seen Oregon doing 3 years ago.
Absolutely.
When they lost, or in 23 when they lost to Washington twice in 1 year. Like Oregon has turned the corner on that stage of their development, and they're getting more and more into that nationally elite category. And I will say this about Indiana too. I think this is a game Indiana loses, but if you're an Indiana fan, I don't think you sulk afterwards and say, "Man, like we're so far off from Ohio State and Oregon." I don't think you feel that way after this. I think it's a loss, but there's those losses you walk away from and you're like, wow, we've actually made a lot of progress as a team from where we were last year. But this only makes us better for the Penn State game here in a few weeks, and I think we get that win. And then, of course, there's wins you feel like shit about. I think this is a loss for Indiana that you don't feel bad about yourself afterwards.
I agree. I'm right there with you. I think that Indiana's going to show that. I think this for Indiana. This game isn't about whether you win or lose. It's about being able to prove to yourself and your team that you can compete on the national stage with one of the best teams in the country and one of the most talented rosters, top to bottom. I do think that they're going to put up a good fight. I like I said, I don't have any problems with this Indiana team. I just think Oregon's too talented, top to bottom, and I think that I think Dan Lanning's probably the hottest commodity in coaching in the league right now. So,
oh yeah, no, and that is no hot take either. Like that guy's about it, and everybody knows it. And so, up in Eugene especially, I like the Ducks.
Yep.
Now, back to the SEC. This is a game that I'm planning on going to this weekend. It's been a bucket list thing. I don't know if I'll be living in DFW next year at this time, and so I figured while I'm here, I got to rip the Band-Aid off. And
yeah.
So, Oklahoma, Texas. I think this is the most fascinating game of the weekend just because of the storylines going into it.
No, I think you're going to like my prediction for this game.
I wonder if it's the same as mine. I think it is.
We'll see.
I want to say it is, but we'll get into it here. And so, of course, Arch Manning has been a hot button topic because of his underperformance this year. But I'm going to say this. It's, you look at like the New York Times. People who don't watch college football, they're not watching college football up there. Let's just put it how it is. New York Times staff's not watching college football. The narrative they're pushing is Arch Manning, Arch Manning, Arch Manning. No. If you watch the Florida game last weekend, if you watch the Ohio State game start to finish, this is an entire team thing. It's easy to bring up Arch Manning to get the clicks, to get the attention. This is an entire team issue. Okay, there's the running the ball. They have not distinguished themselves. For as big as the offensive line is, they're getting very little push. It's very disappointing. Mm-hmm. And I like there's a couple guys in their receiving core that I like. Like I like Wingo, but nobody's really differentiated themselves this year either.
No, he's no Mitchell.
No, there's no AD Mitchell. There's no Xavier Worthy.
No,
it's not. It has not differentiated itself yet. And so Arch Manning's an easy target. And has he delivered this year and what his expectations were? Absolutely not. But who the fuck would, given what a lot of these people said about him this year, how he'd be the best quarterback since Tim Tebow and how he's going to run away with the Heisman. I mean, that's ridiculous to think of somebody.
You can't live up to that.
You can't. No, like those are impossible expectations. But with that said, I do think there's a point where you hit rock bottom. And I think I think Florida last weekend was that point because Texas sits you at 3-2. And what's crazy is I heard a few people talk about the possibility of that during the summertime, of this being a 5-0 against 3-2 game, and here we are. Texas is back up against the wall. It's desperation mode. But I look at Oklahoma, and they're a pretty tested team. I love this Oklahoma defense. This Oklahoma defensive line is petrifying. It's a top 10 defense and maybe even top 5 defense in college football.
Absolutely.
And this game is going to be a low scoring slop fest. So Arch Manning's the one layer, John Mateer's the other layer. I just got a report about 15 minutes ago. Brett Venables saying that Mateer is questionable. And so this is very much a game time decision. What I have a hunch he's going to play. I think it's going to be Mateer that takes the field.
Interesting.
I think that the play calling is a bit conservative. I think it's protective, but I think he takes the field. But when I say that, as much as I'm not like Michael Hawkins is, yeah, I almost saw the Kent State game last week, but my oh my, I think they can win this game with Michael Hawkins because I think they can make this a low scoring defensive battle. I think that they can win this game with Michael Hawkins. However, if you're Texas, give me 1 second. I'm looking up the point spread here. If you're Texas, this is a back against the wall game. It's a game I don't think you lose. Must win. Texas is favored by 2.5 right now, and what's crazy is that's with the John Mateer injury baked in, or with John Mateer playing baked in. If John Mateer doesn't play, that line's going to shift up to around 5.5 or 6.
Really?
In favor of Texas, yes. That FanDuel said that.
Okay.
So which is mind-boggling to me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that is weird.
Vegas is still very high on Texas for some reason. That
the computers are very high on Texas.
The computers are high on Texas. I think and the computers are usually right, but sometimes I think they're slow to adapt, and I think they're slow to adapt to who Texas actually is. But when I say all of that to say that I picked against Texas last weekend, and I was right. I'm going to pick Texas this weekend, and I think I'm going to be right again by the score of 23-20.
I'm right there with you. I personally have the hunch that John Mateer will not play, because I don't think that this is a must-win game for Oklahoma. I think that they'd be better suited kind of leaving him out, and I think that we all know that the Red River rivalry usually is what in the past years has been high scoring, high action, 40s, 50s, and this one's going to just be a slugfest. This one's going to be very physical. I don't think this game suits a Mateer comeback very well. And Venable said that weird quote. He hadn't practiced good on good. He's practiced bad on good or something weird like that.
That's what he said.
Yeah, it's just which is probably what his goal was. But Venables is a weird guy to begin with. But yeah, I think that this is going to be. I mean, this game could be 3-0 at halftime, especially if Michael Hawkins plays. I think if Mateer plays, that they'll win. But I don't think he's going to play, and for that reason, I'm going to pick Texas to win 13-10.
Oh my god, boy! Let me tell you, I'm gonna be pissed off if I sit in 90-degree heat to watch a 13-10 football game.
I'm every single part of me wanted to say 7-3.
Oh my god!
Every single part. But I don't think that. I don't even think that.
And this bitch is 3-0 at halftime. I'm going and getting cotton candy. I don't know if I'm going to come back in.
I don't think that score is possible in modern day football. So.
No, we saw that growing up. You know that Dolphins Steelers game. That was like 6-3 or something. Growing up, we don't see.
Yeah. Well, who was it? It was Virginia Tech and Frank Beamer's last game. That was 0-0 going to overtime.
Yes, that was the lunch pail defense.
Pouring down rain.
Yeah, they get one of those freaking monsoons you get in up in the Appalachians, like towards the end of fall. Like you always just get one of those out of nowhere.
Yeah. So I think that had a lot to do with it, but
there's quite a few. The last game I remember being like that in the NFL was Patriots and Giants when they both sucked the color. I think it was two backup quarterbacks, and it was like 6-3 final. It was like 2023 or something like that. It was just it was awful. I remember Scott Hansen having to go on to the game and being like, "Just not even want to talk about it." It's like, let's just get off of this quickly as possible and start talking about the Lions again.
Yeah, that's Patriots and Giants used to be a highly touted matchup. Not so much in recent years, but it looks like both teams have kind of found a little something, a little bit of a spark.
Absolutely, the Patriots have. The Giants are still figuring out what they got in Jackson Dart, but the Patriots have definitely. I think the Patriots will be a wild card team this year.
Yeah. Well, they can take my Ravens spot.
I was gonna say the Ravens can tie it together, but it's gonna take some
Hey, we just signed Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, so
Hey, maybe that'll be maybe CJ Gardner Johnson will be the edge that gets you over the hump.
CJGJ, baby.
That guy is a problem everywhere he goes. I'm telling you, just
Well,
your
we
locker room doesn't
got
count.
we also signed we traded Owe to the Chargers for I think his name is Alohi Gilon, but
Yeah,
he played with Kyle Hamilton at Notre Dame, so
I mean I like Odafe Away, but I
well, all the Chargers fans said, "Wow, we get Owe and Gilon's off my team," and there's been there we'll see how that goes.
I mean Away had good moments, but he never really lived up to what I was expecting him to be.
Nope, never did. Penn
I was
State, just like Penn State.
Yep, it's everybody got their expectations, but they just don't live up to them.
Yep.
Wow, there's like the Middle Tennessee game. I bet the quad box, and I got Middle Tennessee State, the Dodgers, the Yankees, which is
How are
starting
the Yankees doing?
2-1
I know
down.
how they're. I know. Trust me, I know how they're doing.
This is elimination here. So
You don't have your Canadians on the screen.
no, yeah, I mean I'm not much of a hockey guy.
Yeah, y'all are tied with the Leafs right now, 2-2 in the second.
Oh God, I hate the Maple Leafs. There's like 7 people at the Middle Tennessee State game right now. It's
Murfreesboro.
I love Murfreesboro, but like why? Why
It's
do you
not.
I never understood the purpose of these Wednesday night games, man. Like they're just imagine being a student and having a football game on a Wednesday night, like and then just go back to class the next day. Like how do you tailgate for that?
You don't.
You just go to class and just you just gotta take shots at that point.
You don't. You don't do it.
You just don't go.
No, you don't go to the game.
You go to the library and do homework.
That's what you do.
We wouldn't know anything about that at Alabama, but
No.
there's other schools out there where the library gets used a lot more at night. At night, at least. During the day, it's packed, but at night, crickets in that bitch.
Well, I might be doing that strategy for this 11 a.m. game in Columbia. I'm not going to the game. This will be my first regular season game in 15 games I've missed. But unless I hit some crazy like 50K on DraftKings or something, but fly out there. But we were living on a prayer at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a good streak, but Como's a weird trek from Alabama.
Yeah, I don't think Missouri's a destination location for me.
I want to go to the Ozarks at some point.
Yeah, maybe the Ozarks, just because of the TV show, but
I haven't been down there yet. It looks beautiful, so I want to see it. But
you're a little bit closer than I am too.
Yeah, I mean, here I am at least. It's like I looked up the drive to Como. I thought about going. It's 9 hours. I was like, nope, not gonna happen.
Yep, no. Maybe you're not that much closer. Maybe you're not that much closer.
No, I thought I was. I looked at the map. I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Yep.
Well, thank you for hopping on here, Luke. Great show as always.
Yes, sir.
And thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think about the picks in the comment section below. Have a great day.